Good evening and welcome to tonight's educational presentation of strategies for saving on, not just for college costs. My name is Douglas Hagren with Emergent College Advisors. I'll be your host for this evening. We'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. I'm trying to give a little moment here to see some extra people be able to get in and join. They've a couple of people are jumping on late, but I also want to be respectful to all of you that were here on time to let you be able to know that we're going to be getting into this and getting started here shortly so that we can get you out at a reasonable time this evening. As you can see on the screen that you're looking at, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today, and we're going to be going relatively fast. Current college costs, college fund versus retirement, basics, tips for reducing costs, mistakes to avoid, admissions, financial aid, etc. So we're going to be getting started here, and there's going to be a couple offers at the end as well for those of you if you have any extra questions. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. We've got people that are watching us on other sources like YouTube, Facebook. For those of you that are watching out there, you won't have access to being able to ask these questions, but please feel free to follow up with us at a later date. For those of you that signed in tonight, please use the Q&A section of Zoom. So if you are familiar with the Zoom toolbar, please use that to post any questions. We will try to get to those at the end the best we can. Please do not use the chat. Sometimes the chat gets scrolling and we will miss them. So I want to make sure that you know that every one of your questions is extremely important to us. But again, welcome tonight. And I think we've bought enough time for those. So let's get started. Okay. So what we're going to be looking at here tonight is ultimately this information is complex. Everybody's financial situation is different, very different, in fact. And due to this, we will be offering you a complimentary consultation to those of you that attended tonight. And that complimentary consultation will take about 30 minutes of one-on-one time to review specific and individual situation. Of course, everybody's different. We'll discuss those details of that later on in the workshop. But as you said, basically, this is a huge investment for people. College is going to cost a lot. And ultimately, for those of you that are listening tonight, we really do specialize information that is going to be valuable for families of all ages leading up to college, but predominantly from 6th grade to 11th grade, although there is information that's helpful for those of you in 12th grade, again, giving you the time to be able to prepare because we know that this creates a lot of anxiety. The admissions and financial aid is an incredibly complex minefield that, if you cross it wrong, can create an unmitigated disaster. Okay. So let me tell you, first of all, why am I here? Why do I do what I do? My story. We go back to 2000, and I was fortunate enough. I had graduated college. I was done. I was in the workforce. I was a couple years out, but I ended up going on a trip, and unfortunately, coming back from that trip, I found out that my father had passed away. He was 53 years old. And my father they were divorced. My parents were divorced. So that's a totally different story that really relates to me of kind of what I went through trying to plan for college while my parents were going through a divorce. So if we have any divorced couples out here, you understand the added minefields that adds. But for me, it was really about the fact that my sister was in her first year of college and my father passed away. He did not have anything saved for college. He was paying as he went along. She was at a school where it was unfortunately expecting a very high contribution from the family, and we had nothing to figure out how to get through. So ultimately, there was a lack of liquidity in our situation. There were some business issues that had to be taken care of. There were debt issues that had to be taken care of. And along top of that, I'm 25 years old, and I had to figure out how to get my sister through the next 3 years of college and figure out how to pay for it. And it really created an incredible amount of financial stress and anxiety, as really it took about 5 years to get through all of that before I could move on to looking forward to my life. And again, now I have my own family, my own kids. We're planning for our own things, but ultimately this hits home for me because this is something that is really combines everything into one. It was, financial planning in general. It was also the impact of what happens when things go wrong, that certainty, uncertainty, and of course, the impact of college costs and trying to figure out how to pay for all of those things. That's why we do what we do, because as I've been in this career since then, I have seen countless families at all different stages of level of net worth and wealth and income all struggle with this. So if you are feeling, no matter who you are, anxiety about this, you are not alone. So what we're going to do and what we're going to cover tonight in this educational presentation is share with you some of the things that we've learned through the years, both from personal experience through families. So tonight for the next hour, I'm going to show you what we've discovered, and the goal is to empower you with knowledge that most of you have not heard. I promise it's going to help you better understand how to plan for college in ways that will begin to ensure that you have what you desire most. And these are things that we've heard from families. A happy and successful child who goes to a great college, that you can find scholarships and financial aid to get that exorbitant cost down. And importantly, that you keep your promise to your loved ones. We know you've all made that promise. And ultimately, pay for college without going broke. But let's talk about the current college landscape. Like, what are families facing out there? Okay. It's expensive, extremely expensive. I mean, look on screen. The current cost of a four-year college education for a public school is around $100,000. Now, depending on where you live, it could be more or less to that. We've seen schools like here in Minnesota, the University of Minnesota is over $33,000 a year. So now you're looking at close to a $125,000 or more for a cost of a public education. And this is what we call the cost of attendance. So it's including tuition, fees, room and board, et cetera. And this is according to the 2023 report from the College Board and the Collegiate Funding Solutions. Okay. This is applying an annual 5% cost increase. So it is extremely expensive. Now, the reality is that only about 40% of freshmen enrolling in college are going to graduate in 4 years. So we just gave you the cost of a four-year education. Think about what happens when 60% of those freshmen end up having an extra year or more. In fact, the average graduation time for many in the country is about 6.2 years. And now you're looking not only above those averages, because you got to create an average out of real numbers. Over 500 colleges now charge more than $50,000 per year. And that's for only one child. So no wonder 73% of parents with children under the age of 18 worry about college funding more than any other financial matter. But if that's the thing they're worrying about more than any other financial matter, keep that in mind. And when you think about what kind of financial information advice is out there, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. But let's start with some brutal truths about what's going on with college costs and the impact of families. As we've just seen, the average four-year public university is about $100,000 or more, and the average private is about $235,000. That's a four-year average. And again, only 60% of freshmen are graduating in 6 years or less. So we said that only 40% graduate in 4 years. Only 60% are getting it done in 6. So today, a family could easily exceed college costs of $250,000 for one child. Now, I'd like to say that's the cost of a house, but we all know what the cost of a house has done over the recent years. So it's still the cost of a house in certain areas, but let's put it this way. It is the average cost of a house historically for many people, and you're talking about that in 4 years. And according to Sally Mae, about 60% of families that were not saving for college said the reason was we don't have enough money. So to bridge that gap of college costs and available resources, families are now going out and they're taking on more and more student loan debt, which significantly curtails other future financial opportunities. So what's the point of this? Well, what I have found is that most financial advisors, much less financial advice out there, is not helping you with college planning. And if not, they are severely hurting all of your other financial goals. According to Forbes article in 2019, there is a severe lack of preparation amongst financial advisors to assist clients with college planning. They often lack specialized knowledge about college funding options, financial aid, tax-efficient strategies for saving for education expenses, and this knowledge gap can lead to suboptimal college planning outcomes for families seeking guidance from financial professionals. According to the Journal of Financial Planning, families may face increased risk in the event of unexpected circumstances, such as job loss, disability, or medical emergencies, or death, as in my case, which can impact ability to meet both short-term and long-term financial goals. And listen, I'm not just speaking to families with lower income here. We're talking about higher income families as well. The journal addressed the issues facing affluent families can result with families depleting their savings or retirement accounts to cover education expenses, jeopardizing their long-term financial security. And for higher income and net worth families, the CFA Institute wrote that funding education expenses without proper planning can completely disrupt estate planning goals, potentially leading to unequal distributions among heirs, diminished intended legacy. So ask yourself, if this is so critical to your financial outcome, and the number one thing most people think about financially, has this been addressed? And if not, and your financial plan was exposed to unnecessary risks from paying for college, under what circumstances would you want to tell your child they can no longer go to college or drop out or take on a huge amount of debt, or you find out someday that you have less than you need to live the life you want because the cost of college took that all away? My guess is none of that. And tonight we're going to talk about the things you need to know that you need to begin doing today to remove the unnecessary risk of college to both your child's and your own financial future. I get it. Paying for college is a very emotional concern of families. We talk to hundreds, thousands of families. They love their children. They make promises to their children. You are doing that as well, I'm sure. You want them to be successful, and you're willing to sacrifice whatever you can do for them financially. Some more, some less. Many do this even to the point of jeopardizing their retirement savings. Will parents be able to accomplish both successfully, or will they be forced to choose between college at the, college funding or the expense of their retirement savings? What this is showing you is the cost of what we call the opportunity cost of paying college versus savings for retirement. It's critical. For many of you, you have to make a choice of where you're going to put your dollars. There are people out there that have enough money that no matter what they could do, barring any extreme financial stupidity, will have enough to do everything and really not have to think about it. That's not most people. That's really an incredible small amount of people have that, okay? Opportunity cost, if you take a look at spending $100,000 for college, in 15 years, the retirement savings foregone is $250,000. In 20 years, it compounds to $328,000. Now, if you look at a school that is a $235,000 four-year college cost, you're looking at $551,000, over $500,000 of lost or foregone retirement savings in 15 years. That grows to $750,000 after 20 years. And again, only 53% of freshmen are actually enrolling in college and graduating in 6 years or left. So ultimately, what we're saying here is no matter what, from the first dollar you spend on college to the last, there is an amount of retirement that is going to be shifted to college. And the lost opportunity cost of having given that money away versus taking it is a compounding amount that continues to grow into perpetuity. So what this means is every dollar you overpay for college has an effect on your wealth. And that's just for one child. But there is good news, and we're not here just to scare you completely. Most people think, and most professional financial advisors included, that college planning is just savings for college. In fact, good college planning is all about saving the cost on college. The more informed that you are, the better equipped that you're going to be to make smart, informed, and prudent financial or college choice admissions choices and planning and funding decisions. The result is that you'll send your child to the right college for the right reasons. And let's face it, an added bonus would be the right cost. So we're going to cover the basics tonight. Now, this is where the education component gets to start. So some things that you get to learn. Let's talk about what happened this year. Starting in 2024, there's a term that they used to use called EFC, expected family contribution. This was replaced this year and changed to a term called the Student Aid Index. So if you hear somebody use the term EFC or SAI, effectively means the same thing. The calculations are a little bit different, but this is what colleges use from FAFSA. The schools that require the CSS profile, and for those of you that may already be involved with this process, these terms may sound familiar, they will actually likely still use the term EFC. So Student Aid Index was really a FAFSA change of decision. And this is a determined formula to basically determine financial need. In other words, as you see here, if the cost of attendance of going to the school, which book supplies, room and board, and your SAI or EFC is $45,000 and the cost of attendance was $60,000, that is going to be a place where the schools are going to look at, okay, we have what's called demonstrated need of that $15,000 difference. And that's where they will begin to look at potentially helping a family on need-based aid. Okay. So they use this to determine your eligibility for financial aid. And it includes parent and student income, as well as liquid assets as the primary determinants of that calculation. It is the minimum a family is expected to contribute to college before qualifying for need-based aid. So you have to understand, whatever that number is, most people are going to pay more than that. Okay, financial and family info provided on the FAFSA, most public schools, although there are some that will use CSS profile, which is many private schools, is the form that is used to calculate this. And we will be using the SAI terminology in this example and assume that both public and private colleges are going to use the FAFSA, okay? So what it is your starting point. So you can see here the public university cost of attendance, $22,000, and SAI of $15,000. There is a demonstrated financial need for that public university of $7,000, whereas a private college may start at $60,000. The SAI may be calculated the same, again, off of FAFSA, and therefore they have a much higher demonstrated financial need of $45,000. That means, again, there's going to be more of a financial aid consideration for need from that higher cost private schools, because both of them in this situation, if they use FAFSA, are going to effectively identify the same number of what they think you can afford. So here's a very good example of one of our students' financial aid packages. Here's the cost of attendance at a public university, okay? And this here is the, as what we would call the, I'm going to annotate here so you can see and get the right annotation, but you can see here that this $15,000 is the SAI. In other words, in your financial aid vocabulary, the SAI takes into account your student and parent income and assets, like I said, the number of children in college, and some other factors. When you subtract the SAI from the cost of attendance, you get that financial need or eligibility for financial aid. And the aid offered is the financial aid award, which includes scholarships and grants, which they don't have to be paid back. That's the free money. That's what you're looking for. Federal work study, now that's going to be where the child would work to earn some money to pay for it, and student loans. And in this case, we're only working at a public university and only a loan was offered. Okay, in this case, $5,500. With all that aid subtracted from your financial need, there's a positive number that what they call your unmet need. In this case, this is a gap, and this is only $1,500. The gap is then added back to your SAI, and you have the real cost of attendance at the school. So the cost of this family is going to be $15,000 of the SAI plus the unmet need, leading to a cost per year of $16,500. Now, the other school is a private college, okay? And its cost of attendance is almost triple, $60,000. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to subtract that SAI, but again, could be also known as the EFC, and we come up with the financial need, which in this case is substantially higher than the public university. It is $45,000. But look what happens when you see the aid packages. The entire financial aid in this example, or need in this example, is met. There are private colleges that will give 100% of that need-based or that need, and therefore there's no gap and no gap to add. So in this case, the parent's cost is going to be the SAI plus no unmet need, meaning that the school is going to only cost them $15,000. Now, not all schools are going to meet that 100% of need, and many of them can still come close. And also, there's also not a lot of school, not every school is going to cost $60,000. But again, what you're seeing here in this equation is that a private school, in some circumstances, and there are many examples out there, may cost you actually less money than a potential public school. You can see this here again when we compare them. As it turns out, that family, because that family EFC, and the big difference in the ability of a private school versus, to meet the financial aid of a family, the school that appeared to be out of reach for the family was in fact going to cost them less out of pocket. And the reasons why private colleges may often cost a family the same or less than public universities is that if a college wants to keep getting students to attend it, it has to attract students who would ordinarily go to lower price schools. And if they don't, they're eventually going to go out of business. Also, there are many private colleges in competition with each other, and they're looking for ways to enroll many of the same students. Private schools, as well as state schools, have endowments, money that's been donated. Some endowments are larger than others. Private schools often have larger endowments than others, but not in all cases. And some allow for more of it to be used for financial aid. They will use that to offer more money to the students that they want because they can use more of it in a bidding war. So it comes down to a fit. And because private schools use more of their endowment dollars for financial aid than state universities, and because it's their money and not the states or federal governments, they don't have to follow the same financial aid rules. They can give money to whomever they want. And they tend to give most of that money to better students. But they also have tremendous flexibility to match other colleges' financial aid officers. And again, it's not always going to be related to a better academic student. In some cases, it may be talents. Obviously, sports, as we all know, could be something that might entice. So there may be many other reasons that also would encourage a school to give a certain student more money. Okay. So once again, you've seen all of the different things. It is their rules. They compete for the same students. They have a lot of flexibility. So we're going to talk about some tips for reducing the cost beyond just the fact of seeing that there could be reduced cost. Okay. First of all, you have to understand whose roles are here. The financial aid officer's job is not to look out for your best interest. They are there to protect the assets of the college and to give away as little money as possible. Okay. Now, your job is to use the rules of financial aid to make contributions to the college as small as possible. Okay, this comes from Kalman Chaney, who wrote Paying for College Without Going Broke. Okay. And what's the point here? The point is to understand that you need to know those rules to even the game. But we're not expecting you to become a PhD. And this is why a lot of people turn to getting help, because there's a tremendous amount of information if you haven't already noticed. So what are some of the keys to getting a discount? Well, when a student is at the top of the applicant pool, the odds of getting a discount go up appreciably. Buyer colleges are colleges that use tuition discounts and increase financial aid awards to induce students to attend. Okay, so they're using this strategically there. Therefore, you're much more likely to get generous scholarships and tuition discounts at a buyer school. Sellers, on the other hand, are much less likely to be able to give you money that is going to be a financial inducement for that student to attend. They tend to be more selective colleges, and therefore you don't need to use price discounts. They don't need to use price discounts to encourage students to come to meet their enrollment goals. They have plenty coming through the door. They are the haves of admissions. They are overwhelmed with applications, many from top students. They don't need to buy students with tuition discounts to fill their classrooms. Most sellers offer financial assistance only to students who really need it, the need-based, or are just truly exceptional. And these are going to be rare diamonds in the rough. The buyers, though, are the have-nots. In terms of admissions, they're the ones that have to provide a superior, a superior amount of enticement to get students to come there. But they also, many of them, provide a truly exceptional or superior undergraduate education. So rather than select a class, their admissions officers must work hard to recruit students, and they must discount that tuition through merit aid to fill classroom seats and beds in dorms. That obviously is real estate that needs to be filled. By looking at college beyond your typical home radius, expanding that universe, many parents and students impose on themselves. They will actually find that there's a lot more options. So cast a wider net. Some schools like a geographically diverse student body and will give more enticement to get kids from different areas there. And ultimately, that could lead to a discount to attract students beyond the region. I'll give you an example of schools that do not look for that as much. That's going to be university or state schools of California. They tend to be much more generous and filled up by schools or students within that state. You also want to create competition. Okay? They want to create competition, but you want to create that competition by leveraging this term is relative to every college and every student. By applying competing schools together, you create greater chances of a discount and getting a better one if need be. By including buyer colleges on your list, you'll be in a better position to use an excellent aid offer or multiple offers from different schools from colleges as a bargaining chip in order to try and get a top choice school to sweeten the pot before they commit or before you commit to a top choice school. So again, take your time, collect that information, and get them to work off each other. But there is an etiquette and a timing to that. And lastly, you've got to fill out the financial aid forms. It's something that every parent should do. Many do not. The Department of Education says about 65 to 70% of families are doing it now, which means 30% of families are just deciding they just must not want any financial aid, or they weren't aware that you have to fill that out to get it. So if you don't need financial aid, fill it out anyway, because some schools won't even give you merit scholarships unless you do. Now, there are three basic sources for paying for college costs. There is free money, there's cheap money, and then, obviously the resources of the family, including loans. The goal of planning for financial aid is to increase your free money. Since need-based financial aid is driven by your EFC, you want to evaluate legal and ethical ways to possibly lower your EFC and increase the financial aid eligibility. Now, you have some control over your EFC, and in many cases, or some cases, significant control. Now, many families will miss out on merit-based scholarships because they don't know what's available to them, and they don't know exactly what's required to obtain those scholarships. Those merit-based scholarships are not just for those top students. Listen, there's merit scholarships out there for everybody. As a matter of fact, about 50% of kids are getting some sort of discount to go to most private schools. And those merit scholarships reduce the need for loans and they reduce the gap. Okay. So ultimately, using debt to pay for college can significantly raise the total college costs. So reducing that gap via financial aid planning can have far-reaching benefits. Now, once you submit FAFSA or the CSS profile, you significantly curtail your ability to increase your financial aid eligibility based on the EFC, even though you can appeal to the financial aid administrators at the school. Okay, so you really want to get ahead of this and really get your plan in place before you file it, because it is much more difficult to adjust it later. So don't do this after. Okay. Kind of like taxes. You want to plan for your taxes before you file your 1040 with the IRS. So determine basically what is going to be the forms that you're going to be requiring to use for those schools. You want to figure out what the EFC calculation is going to be. And you ultimately want to be able to make sure that you have put your strategies in place to increase your financial aid eligibility well in advance. You must know what to do, so that can save you thousands of dollars, and what not to do, which can cost you thousands of dollars. And ultimately, doing this ahead of time, planning ahead of time, even if you're doing late stage college planning, can have a tremendous impact on your outcome. Student income is a critical component that goes into that SAI. So let's talk about that. You need to familiarize yourself with income strategies. It goes beyond the annual allowance value, currently around $7,000. It will be assessed at 25% and increase EFC by that calculated amount. If you do take capital gains, make sure you can offset them with an equal amount of capital losses. If you're getting a year-end bonus, ask your boss if they can give it to you before January 1st of your first base year. But due to a change that was made in 2024 by the Department of Education to the formula for calculating a family's SAI, retirement account contributions during the base years can significantly reduce AGI and SAI. So retirement savings planning strategies could help you. And this may result in significantly increased financial aid opportunities to selected colleges. A number of variables will determine, which variable will have an effect on financial aid eligibility at selected schools. Analysis for family situation and schools of interest are needed. Okay, so this is something that we can offer a review of, an assessment or a consult here to help you to understand your current situation. We actually have free reports that can tell you right now where things are looking in terms of income impact and asset impact on your eligibility for financial aid. And we do a lot of this in free consult and with free reports that are offered in advance of any further consultation. So you don't even need to work with us to get some of that information. So ask us about it. It's free. Okay. Another thing, if you are charitably inclined, something we always ask our planning clients about, what are their charitable, where do they donate? What matters to them? Accelerating charitable contributions could cause you to pay more in tax in your base years. And you may not even end up paying more tax overall. Besides, your tax you pay in your base year is deducted from income and calculating the EFC. So the more tax you pay, the lower your EFC. Think of it this way. Because the government's getting paid in a different way, they're okay with you paying less in a different area. You can also use the same strategy with IRA contributions, unless you're already making those maximum contributions to retirement accounts every year. Retirement account assets and contributions retirement account contributions only are added back into the EFC formula during the base year, and the reduced income tax would increase your EFC. So there's definitely some things you need to know about when and how you're saving and what vehicles you're using that could affect that EFC number. Now, here are assets that are not assessed by the Department of Education. You can't just label a savings account as a retirement account excluded from the assessment, okay? That would not be ethical or legal. The law is very specific about what can be considered an excluded asset. This is the time to buy, the large home theater system, or the things you need to buy anyway, okay? If the school is using the CSS profile, you can pay down your equity when appropriate to reduce the EFC. Not all schools are going to require the profile, and not all schools that require the profile are going to assess the equity in the same way. And so the difference could cost or save you considerably on your out-of-pocket costs. So understand that, again, the profile is going to ask for a ton of information. And during this ton of information, they are going to each look at it differently and decide how they're going to assess that. Understand, too, that any funds placed in cash value life insurance are also going to be excluded from the assessment. Some of you may already have whole life or other forms of permanent life. Even if you use those funds to pay for college, they will not have any impact. So it's completely excluded from any of the calculations for the purposes of your SAI and college planning. Now, note that with withdrawals from cash surrender value and death benefit are reduced by the amount of loan outstanding plus unpaid interest. Unpaid loans with interest may cause the policy to terminate. So if you're going to use life insurance, you have to do with a very diligent strategy to make sure that that policy is capable of being able to provide for college planning and still be available for the future. Cash and annuities are another thing that a lot of families have or look at, not assessed by FAFSA. You would not usually want to use those funds to help pay for college, although there are circumstances where it makes sense because they're, depending on the annuity you have, there may be heavy penalties for early withdrawal. And again, that it would be a retirement-based annuity. There are non-retirement-based annuities would not have that effect. But keep in mind, I think again, because of the complexity of what assets you can use and when to use them, this may be another area where a value of a consultation would make great sense, because if you do any of these strategies wrong, it could end up costing you thousands of dollars. Okay. Ultimately, lack of knowledge results in that lost financial aid. The less you know, the more you're going to pay. Fact, gifting money to the child may actually reduce financial aid eligibility. So be very careful in giving money to your child directly. A grandparent's gift of $15,000 to a grandchild for college may actually cost family thousands of dollars more in lost financial aid because of how the families assess that gift as an asset of the student. So if you're going to do any family gifting, charity, in terms of in life gifting, wait until after college to gift. Maybe help pay off student loans. No lost financial aid in that scenario. The cumulative benefit of implementing a variety of strategies can often yield real savings to the family on a total out-of-pocket cost than actually can financial aid. And these strategies are more predictable ahead of time and under the control of the parents, as opposed to being controlled by the school with respect to financial aid. So this is really important, especially if you are a high-income family. Ideally, college savings vehicles would have these characteristics listed. Okay, flexibility of use is a great benefit. A 529 is not a one-size-fits-all solution for clients. Okay, so you want to understand the comparative analysis of how 529s work versus other accumulation strategies, and that's something that we do for families, because ultimately, while there is a huge push for 529s out there, and they do have some benefits, they can create some costly challenges as well, such as we have seen, in certain circumstances, reductions of available merit aid. So this is really important. Again, what type of savings should you do? I went earlier today, I said, most financial advisors have zero clue and provide zero guidance on how to plan properly for college. It has affected both families of low income as well as families of high income. Therefore, when you talk about where to save, most of them fall to the default that they've been told by their brokerages or other entities to just save in 529s. And yes, that can make sense. But because of the hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential impact of decisions, this may be one of those times to truly make those decisions through consultation with someone that actually understands a full comprehensive financial plan that encompasses the impacts of college. So let's avoid some mistakes, shall we? First of all, thinking income can be too high. Okay, this is a critical one. A lot of people mistakenly assume that because they make a high income, they're not going to qualify for any financial aid. They earn too much, have too much. Sometimes that is actually the case, but often because of a number of factors, like I mentioned, divorce, unusual expenses, number of children, taking care of aging parents, or the college just has different criteria for determining need, you could earn up to $200,000 per year and still get need-based aid. Do not guess or assume anything when it comes to financial aid eligibility. For families that will not qualify for need-based aid, it is a huge mistake not to complete and submit FAFSA anyway. It has nothing to do with need-based aid. It can still cost your family thousands of dollars a year in college costs by not filing FAFSA. And again, we can reveal more of this during a free consultation. Now, mistake number 2, okay? Rushing through the financial aid process. There is no need to rush. The keys to doing it correctly is ultimately, if you make mistakes, and the Department of Education says about 93% of all FAFSAs filed have mistakes, okay? Ultimately, these can be very costly and difficult to correct. And ultimately, listen, if you do make a high income, just make the deadlines and you'll be fine. Okay? Ultimately, mistake number three, applying to fewer than 6 schools. If a student applies to fewer than 6 schools, the odds for good financial aid package are going to plummet. Okay? They're much less than applying to more than 10, or at least up to 10. The more colleges apply, it increases the odds of being able to get a really good package, to be able to get the leverage between one school to another. Which schools to apply to? Well, you must include buyer schools in the list, and we can help you do this, right? Because if you're doing seller schools, they're not going to be good for negotiations. Mistake number 4, picking the wrong schools. It's imperative you pick schools where your child's going to be in the top 25% or 20% even better of incoming freshman class with respect to GPA and SAT and ACT scores. Although schools give financial aid based on your calculation of need at their school, they will definitely give preferential packaging, i.e. more free money versus loans to students who lie in that top 20 to 25% of incoming class. The reason they do this is to attract the better students to their school, and you should use this to your advantage. So make sure you understand which schools your student is going to fall into that top 20 to 25% if you are concerned about getting in first, but even more so, being in a position of getting more money. And mistake number 5, assuming all financial aid is the same. All schools are not created equal and will not be able to give you your family the same financial aid packages. Some schools are really well endowed and they get a lot of money from alumni and corporations, and these schools have more money to give out and are generally able to meet most of a student's financial need at their school if they determine that that is a student that they really want. Others don't, so it can actually end up costing you more to send your child to a cheaper school. We saw that earlier, especially if they don't have the money to meet your need. And every school that has and provides need-based aid has a different percentage. We talked about the handful that give 100%. There are schools out there that give 23% of that demonstrated need. Again, that would mean that no matter what your financial condition, there's just no money to give you to help you out. You should know the school's history of giving more money before applying so that you're not setting up a situation where you're going to be disappointed when you get a bad financial aid package from your child's top school choice. In a nutshell, don't put yourself in a position where you're waiting to walk down to your mailbox with your fingers crossed, hoping you got a great financial aid package. Get that information now, get it sooner, and know what you're facing. Now there's more mistakes. Number 6, not knowing formulas that determine SAI and EFC. If you don't know how that's determined and you don't know the difference between included income and assets and non-reported income and assets for the purposes of filling out these forms, you should now, because that's where you have your money is where that they're going to take a look and use, and they're going to use certain things more than they're going to use other things. Some of the things they won't use at all. And if you don't know how to legally and ethically position your money to properly in order to avoid being assessed for financial aid, you could end up losing thousands of dollars in that aid. Now, we already talked about it. Not applying at all is mistake number 7. This really should be the number 1 mistake. Lots of parents, for lots of reasons, don't bother to apply. Big mistake, because as we said, many colleges won't even offer you merit money unless you file the forms. Yes, they're a pain. Yes, they're confusing and counterintuitive. Yes, they can take hours to complete. Again, you can get help to make that easier from services like ours, but they must be filed if you want to get free money. And if some unfortunate event takes place, the college has your information and is in a position to help you. Mistake number 8. My CPA or tax preparer will do it. And unfortunately, most CPAs and tax preparers are experts at tax and preparation, not financial aid. For example, a CPA or tax preparer might suggest you put all or some of your assets in your child's name to save money on taxes. We already talked about that. It may be well-meaning, but it'll usually kill most or all of your chance of getting financial aid. Also, CPAs and tax preparers are not generally trained in filling out financial aid forms. So in many cases, they will unknowingly fill out these forms improperly, and even minor mistakes can be expensive ones. The 9th mistake, Do not respond to a college that sends you a financial aid package first. Instead, wait until financial aid packages from all the schools that your child was accepted to have arrived and have been evaluated for fairness and accuracy. Your strongest leverage is that competitive package we talked about from a similar caliber school, or knowing what you should deserve based on who your child is and how they compare to other freshmen. That financial aid package could be used as a bargaining chip to get a better deal from your first school, or make sure you got the money that you deserved in the first place. And what's mistake number 10? Pure and simple. Foregoing professional advice. If you were to be sued, even if it's for $10,000, most people would contact a lawyer. They wouldn't likely call the other guy's lawyer and just work it out. If you had a tax situation, you'd probably want to consult a CPA first and not just call the IRS. So why is it that when faced with one of the most expensive purchase decisions of your lives, parents are all of a sudden financial aid admissions experts? I'm not saying you can't do this yourself. Of course you can, if you're willing to become that expert. Just like you could become a tax expert or a legal expert. And then you only be practicing on yourself. Practice is for making mistakes and learning from them. Do you have time to have the luxury of mistakes? Not in this process. So consider the advice of a knowledgeable professional, maybe it's us, who could help you through this process to achieve a good outcome. Now, if the school can't see the ability to pay, which is revealed via the financial aid forms, then they have no other way of knowing what your family's financial situation is and ability to pay. So let the school see the others you've applied to. It actually works to your favor in leveraging schools against each other to have them sweeten the pot. So it's okay. You want to leak out some of that information to the different schools in order to get them to start thinking. And by the way, certain schools, every school really, is going to have certain schools that they consider to be their true competition. That's hard to find. It's published out there. It's buried deep. Again, if you want to become a student aid expert, go out and look for it. We actually can help look at the schools that a student is, as considered to be their priority, and tell you exactly which schools you should be applying to that is going to get them to perk up and potentially be able to, provide you additional funds to entice you to look at them instead of their competition. You want the school to see your ability to pay, and you want the school to look at other schools you're applying to so that they are going to be nervous and want to be able to be in a position to help you out. Schools, they really want full pay clients. So if you don't give them that information, they'll be more than happy to make you pay full price. As a matter of fact, paying full price is a surefire way to get in, but most people can't afford it. And again, it's a surefire way to get into a school that your student fit academically. Doesn't mean you're going to get into a school that they didn't. Use tuition discounts to your advantage to attract your student to the right school. Make it work for you. Parents contribute to the endorsements booster programs. That often helps a lot as well. But these, again, all of these are mistakes that if you don't do this right can cost you tremendous, highly desirable colleges, and ultimately make those colleges compete. Forms are means for you to get the best deal, okay? Make sure you do FAFSA. If the school cannot see that ability pay, ultimately, they're going to make you pay more. So let's talk about admissions and financial aid. Run through this, okay? This process is overwhelming for most families. So if you're feeling this, don't feel alone. The lack of knowledge or mistakes can cost your family $1,000 in out-of-pocket costs, okay? When they reach their junior year in high school for your child, this is when you begin to enter that daunting college selection admissions process, which has a myriad of actions, including identification of candidate colleges, college application process, application for financial aid, which you have to basically have a PhD to figure out the forms, those awards that you get, the evaluation and negotiation of those financial aid awards, final college selection and award acceptance, and strategies for covering any shortfalls. Each step along the way is associated with its own complexity, its own stress, its own mystery, and headaches for the family. Missteps or lack of knowledge, again, can cost you thousands of dollars of out-of-pocket college costs. So in order to maximize success at each step along the way, you're going to have to take time, effort, patience, and expertise, all of which are in generally short supply in today's world for busy parents of college-bound children. Here are just 3 outcomes that can easily occur based on mistakes made by the family in order to have, and the lack of knowledge, basically not knowing what to do. For choosing the wrong school or curriculum, okay, this is one of the single most important reasons for setting up a comprehensive plan and for leaving no stone unturned in preparing for college. Avoiding this can save you thousands of dollars, okay? So you might ask, couldn't we go do this alone, do this yourself? And the answer is absolutely, so long as you're willing to become that expert on the admissions process, its impact of financial aid, as well as the thousands of pages of rules and regulations required to take advantage of this process. Each family is unique when it comes to your own financial aid, net worth, and it takes an experienced financial aid specialist to know how to advise you. With the cost of college as high as it is today, it really doesn't make sense for a family to enter in this on their own, when there are viable, cost-effective alternatives out there that exist. If someone were to be sued, again, we talked about this, as an attorney, you wouldn't call the other guy's lawyer. You wouldn't call the IRS directly. So again, this is crazy to do this on your own. Ultimately, you need to think about what you can do in this process. And if you want to go it alone, you're going to need to ultimately get through the minefields, which is going to take time, effort, expertise, and experience. The second option that you can do is you can get professional help. Again, maybe it's from us, maybe it's somewhere else, but make sure it is professional help that can understand your full financial goals and concerns and know how to look for all of the unnecessary risks that you have in your financial life where you're going to lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily. And that includes college. So if they are not college financial planning experts, then they really aren't qualified to help you understand or plan for any of your financial retirement, okay? Because a good planner is going to help understand how to select the best colleges that fit for the student for the right reasons. They're going to help you save money on college costs at the right price, and they're going to help you create a plan for the family that yields that confidence. So hopefully you give all the things you want to give to your child, and you don't have all of the unfortunate things that come from doing it wrong. Given the current economy and the competitive nature of college admissions and financial aid, parents can greatly benefit from targeted, strategic, and tactical guidance to achieve the best possible outcome through each stage of this process, okay? You can now greatly get benefits from the experience, expertise, coaching, hands-on support that can help you navigate the process successfully to work towards the best possible outcome for both your student and you, your family. So through effective strategic planning and tactical planning, you can become an informed buyer of college education. Tactical planning, this is going to include college admission strategies, financial forms process, funding strategies, cash flow strategies, paying the gap. Okay, this is ultimately going to be a really critical step for being able to understand how to save thousands of dollars. So what are your next steps? Well, first of all, it could be to get a free consultation that we said we will offer to you. We're going to put that in here. My partner Craig's going to put this in the chat here in a second. Okay, during this free consultation, he just did. You can click on that link and it'll take you directly to it. We'll look here to see if anybody signed up. I have set aside a limited number of spots because I'm still working with families from other webinars. I have a very full schedule, set a limited number of slots for people to sign up. And again, when they go, we'll work you in. But if this is important to you, you don't want to be looking at 2 months out. We're going to discuss in that meeting your student, okay? We're going to discuss your goals, your objectives, your obstacles, and where you currently are in the process. By the way, to my team, it looks like somebody's put some information in there and a question in the chat. If you could capture that, that would be great, so that we can make sure that we follow up and get to that. Our goal is to make sure that you have a great outcome for your student. And ultimately, at the end, your finances. Okay? Because as I said before, what do parents really want? Happy and successful child, goes to a great college, scholarships and financial aid, that you keep your promise and you pay without going broke. Parents want it and they need help. So what's important to your family? Okay? We've found that parents look at this process with concern. Sure, you do want your child to be independent, happy, and successful. And many are under the assumption that if the child doesn't get into what they think of as the right college, they won't be able to succeed. So finding a college can take on special meanings to different families. And of course, what parent doesn't want their child to get lots of scholarships? They might have said to their child, you do the work. We'll figure out a way to pay for it. I've heard this from many families. But now reality is starting to sink in that, and they may be rethinking this process. And maybe you'd like to keep that process without sacrificing your own retirement. May not always say it, but what I understand out there from the families that we work with is that many of you absolutely want one thing, and that is help. Okay? So there's costs if you wait. As I said, get on our calendar soon if there's questions or concerns that are important to you. Okay? Because if you wait or you procrastinate, the risks are fewer college choices. We already said fewer college choices leads to less ability to negotiate. Fewer cost reduction strategies. You run out of time, the ability to save. Fewer college savings and funding options. A much larger gap. It goes up every single year. Potential need for debt financing. Less available retirement savings. Increased stress for retirement savings. Students may have to settle for a lesser option, crushing student loan debt, and more. To schedule your free consultation, okay, please click on the link that's been provided to you. I'm also going to put it on the last slide, but I do want to note, if you are married, both parents must attend this meeting. This is a family decision. You both make choices around what's going to happen here. You both have, you're both parents to this child. Please make sure that you're both available. Now, I do have a question, a question here. Someone said New York, okay. Don't know, if there's a question to that, but welcome from New York. Very good to see that you're here. We've got people that are coming in from all over the country, and I want to welcome you to coming into that. It also looks like Craig has already answered a couple of questions there. So thank you very, very much for being able to, to answer that question or to ask those questions. And lastly, again, we're going to put up this information here to everybody. So if you have any other questions, I see that there's still some people that are on here. Please, this is a great time to stop, take some notes, take a screenshot of this screen, go out, click on that link that Craig put out there in the chat, and book a time. I see that we've already gotten a couple of those slots have been taken. So again, if you are interested, please jump on that now. And lastly, I will stay on here to see if there's any additional questions that pop up. We'll make sure that we do answer those for you here in the next couple of minutes. If there are no further questions, I hope you found this information valuable. And obviously, we will look forward to answering any further questions that you have. If they are personal questions about your situation of any kind, please let's have that in a one-on-one. It'd be a great time through our 30 minutes to be able to understand your unique circumstances and be able to answer those questions pertinent to your situation. So lastly, I'm going to leave this with you. Which do you want to be? An informed or an uninformed buyer? Make that decision for you, make that decision for your child, and protect your future. We've got no more questions that have come in here. I'm going to wait here for a second to see if there are. Do not be shy. If there are any questions that are being asked by anybody out there, and if it's in your head, I promise you there are other people that are thinking the same thing. Okay. Well, wonderful. With that, I appreciate the time that you've had tonight. I do look forward to those of you that have signed up and to those of you that may sign up later if we still have some spots. Appreciate and hope you found this information wherever you are, wherever you may be. Wish you all the best, and we look forward to talking to you soon, and wish you an extraordinary future for you and your child. Take care and have a great night.